Today is the official release date of the physical Nintendo Switch 2 edition for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. No patch to resolve the many issues I and a lot of other players had with the digital edition has been issued or even announced yet, which means I wouldn't really have anything to make a video on here, and I especially don't want to just reiterate the same complaints I had when the digital version came out because they're entirely unchanged. What I didn't expect is to have a news video to make today at all though, and it is an extremely positive one to boot, as a game that was previously lost media, the Japanese Vodafone flip phone from 20 years ago exclusive Xenosaga spin-off, albeit a completely canon prequel, Xenosaga Pied Piper, has been officially announced to be getting a port to Steam and Switch. There are some caveats to this, but I personally believe them to all be minor, as this is just an incredible thing for the entire future and history of the Xeno series as a whole. The first thing is that Pied Piper was legitimately lost media for nearly 20 years, with a ROM only being recovered in 2025. Yes, it was a mobile game, but this was a mobile game pre-app stores. It was first made available on the Japanese Vodafone Live service a couple weeks after the Japanese release of Xenosaga 2, and then also got a release through NTT Domoko's iMode in 2006. Both of these services are completely defunct now, and obviously people stopped buying phones that could access them once the smartphone era began. Plus, I have a feeling Pied Piper was taken down on both actual storefronts. So even the Japanese audience, who almost exclusively gets everything Xeno related without compromise unlike the rest of the world, has not had access to the game either for a very long time. The company responsible for this new release is Gmode, which is effectively an indie company dedicated to preserving old mobile games from services such as the ones Pied Piper were put on. This isn't a remake or anything, this is a strict port of the old mobile game to modern operating systems. While as the original rights holder, Bandai Namco did approve of this project, that is basically all they did as far as I can tell. Gmode even being listed as the sole publisher on the Steam release. That means, despite having the Bamco seal of approval, this is effectively, for real, a quote small indie company end quote situation. So I would not expect anything other than a strict port, and that also means there was no resources for an official localization. This doesn't mean all is lost for the fanbase outside Japan though. Obviously, it's on non-region locked platforms, so you can still buy it to support the Xenosaga series. Yeah, that's crazy. You can buy a Xenosaga game and have money actually go to the developers, indicating to them that there is a market for Xenosaga in present day in 2026. That's pretty awesome. But also, in spite of not having the money to make official localizations, Gmode has acknowledged the existence of a large Western fanbase for the games they release in the past, and, well, this is getting a Steam release. It can be modded. This will be easier to make a fan translation mod for than the raw ROM of the old mobile version that people were planning on doing that for when that first got recovered. In fact, the same English fan translation group that was planning on doing that has already announced that they are going to continue translating to make a mod exclusively for the new legally available version. I believe a full Spanish fan translation already exists, so it's actually likely that that language will be the first one to get a full mod into the game when it releases. By the way, there is no release date listed yet, it is just coming soon, but I would highly recommend if you have a Steam account going and wishlisting it, just to show even more how much demand for the game and Xenosaga as an IP there is. Even better, Pied Piper is getting ported in the first place because it was a winner of a poll from last year, where Gmode asked fans which game they wanted them to port next. This means that Gmode reached out to Bamco saying, "We have empirical data stating that people want Xenosaga Pied Piper to be ported, can we do it?" And then Bandai Namco said yes. Now, this alone doesn't mean that the rest of Xenosaga is getting modern re-releases, of course. And just because Gmode is doing this doesn't mean anything for the rest of the series because Gmode specializes in these old mobile games. But for this to happen in the first place, Bandai Namco had to be made aware of the large demand for this game, and as such, the rest of the Xenosaga series. Like, if this many people are asking for Pied Piper, I think the audience for the full mainline Xenosaga series would be even higher. This also isn't the only announcement of a re-release of Xenosaga stuff that's happened recently. Not too long ago, Yuki Kajiura's contributions to Xenosaga 2 and 3, as well as one of the Dot Hack animes she worked on, were also confirmed to be getting re-released, and a Xenosaga 3 Cosmos model kit was re-released late last year. You also can't read into anything about the Pied Piper port being Switch and PC only. That's just Gmod's MO, they always target those two platforms, which I think does make sense for a Japan-focused company porting games that were previously available for portable devices. It's a different case to the Baten Kaitos ports, which were Monolith RPGs contemporary with the Xenosaga trilogy, but were always for Nintendo platforms from the beginning, while Xenosaga was PS2 besides the DS game. Either way though, that's not super worth worrying about in the now, because Xenosaga Pied Piper is coming back, and it's going to be legally purchasable internationally for the first time ever. Ignoring my own Xeno fandom, this is a major win just from a pure preservation standpoint. And as a Xeno fan, well, I get to actually play this game now. Pied Piper and the DS Xenosaga 1 and 2 are getting fan translations now, and those are games that I'd always wanted to play, but never could. The existing English fan translation of Pied Piper is good, but it's mostly just text-based with some very low-resolution screenshots, so a more polished one that's in the game itself is going to be a massive difference. Pied Piper is not only the backstory of Ziggy, a fan-favorite character from the series, but also the last piece of Xenosaga media Soraya Saga herself directly wrote for. Imagine if Torna the Golden Country never got released outside Japan, and then became inaccessible entirely for over a decade, only being announced for a re-release on the year of Xenoblade 2's 20th anniversary, with a port being handled by a company who seems to give implicit approval to fan translations into languages other than Japanese. The situation isn't perfect, obviously official translations would be preferred, but as far as things go for now, this is a pretty ideal scenario, even just in terms of people who care about game preservation and not about Xenosaga as a series itself. And, you know, honestly, if the full trilogy does get re-released, I'm pretty sure they are going to just fully remake Pied Piper in the same 3D style the rest of the games are in, if it's a remaster or remake for the trilogy or whatever, and that will be fully translated. So I'm not too worried about it always being Japanese locked without a fan translation in the future. That's the thing. I don't think this port existing changes the odds or says anything about whether or not the full Xenosaga trilogy is getting a modern re-release, but I do still think it's going to happen. And that means this Pied Piper port is a very, very cool situation. I'm assuming a modern re-release would include a modern version of Pied Piper as well, but that means they're porting and preserving the original version ahead of any remaster or remake that might be coming in the future. And that's what so many people want. When you remake a game, to also make the original version accessible too, so the remake isn't implicitly treated as a replacement. That's great. And if the rest of Xenosaga happens, including more Pied Piper stuff, this will be happening here too. This wasn't the Xenosaga port I was expecting in 2026, but we got something, and it's something incredibly cool. Always bet on Xenosaga. Ziggy is coming back this year. Cosmos will be coming back soon enough. Until next time though, this is Luxon, signing off.